Good afternoon and welcome to this BCS Learning and Development Specialist Group meeting. And it was 5 years ago since we did the last joint SEDMA BCS L&D meeting in this room. And I think it's 2 years since most of us have met physically. So welcome to everyone in the room and welcome to everyone online, because this is a hybrid event today. So we've got about 70 BCS members and SEDMA members from around the world signed up to join online. So we're live streaming. It does mean when we get to the Q&A session later, there are a couple of microphones going to be going around the room. So if you have questions, and I hope you do have lots of questions ready for the session, please wait until you've got one of the microphones before you ask your question. Thank you. So, as I said, my name is Kevin Streeter. I'm chair of the BCS Learning Development Specialist Group. Hopefully everyone's heard of British Computer Society. If not, sign-up forms will be available tomorrow. But I've been involved in BCS pretty much, well, since I was a student, and been involved in all sorts of roles at BCS, but this is the one I've always held on to, which is chairing the Learning Development Specialist Group. And we run events about once a month on different topics around learning and development. And delighted that today we're going to do one on certification and credentialing with what I consider one of the world experts on this on certification and credentialing. So I'll introduce Peter shortly. Just before we get started, for those that don't know about BCS and BCS Learning Development Specialist Group, just a couple of slides about us. It's a specialist group for those who are interested in the development, delivery, or management of learning to IT and communications professionals and users. So hopefully something in there resonates with what you do. And this is just the profile of the group. So it ranges from people that are end user IT trainers, professional skills training is things like project management and service management. Technical skills training is much more the SEDMA group, so vendor type training in hardware and software. We have some members from the university and education sector, and about a third of the membership is just people who are interested in skills and learning and development. So a very mixed group. We do have a website, the link's here, and all of our past talks from getting on for the last 3 years now are all on our YouTube playlist. So there's a whole range of topics there. So if there's something you're interested in learning development, it's a really good resource to go and have a look at to see if we've done a past session. We will be talking a bit about the technical training management book again tomorrow, but this was a joint effort between British Computer Society and SEDMA, and hopefully you've all got a copy. If not, you'll have an opportunity to purchase a copy tomorrow. And if you haven't taken the exam, I think we're still running a session on Wednesday if anyone would like to take the exam. And for BCS people that don't know about SEDMA, SEDMA is the organisation for training executive managers and professionals on a management path within the vendor information communication technology arena, covering hardware, software, cloud learning, and technology related companies. So quite complementary to the BCS group, but very much a joint effort today. So we've got members here from SEDMA, members from BCS, and also online members from both groups. And for the BCS audience, this just gives you an idea of the range of vendors who are members of SEDMA Europe. The group itself, the BCS Learning Development Specialist Group, we're focusing on 4 BCS priorities this year around community, inspiration, progression, and influence. So all of our events this year are themed around one of these 4 topics. So if you're interested in one of these areas, then please have a look at the sessions we've been running, or if you'd like to come and present for us, then please do, you'd be very welcome. And we have our social media feed if you want to keep up with what we're doing. And if you have any ideas, please send them to me. I'm always looking for presenters. So if you give me a good idea this week, I will be asking you to present a session for BCS at some point. So I'd like to go to our session for today. So Peter Manjak, and Peter just said, is the only chair emeritus of a SEDMA special interest group. Peter chaired the certification SIG for 6 years, a long time. And I would say it's worked around the vendor industry associations in many different roles around certification and credentialing. Writes regularly on the subject of certification and credentialing, and Certification Magazine, and all sorts of publications. And in his hand, he has his latest effort, which is his book on everything to know about certification for IT professionals. So if you've got any questions about certification or digital credentialing, this is your man. So Peter's going to come talk to us for about 45 minutes. And then we're going to go into a Q&A session where the floor is open, and also for everyone online. Please have your questions ready, and anything you'd like to ask about certification or credentialing, ask away. We do have the 2 mics around the room. We've also got somebody looking at questions online. So with that, I'd like to say thank you and welcome Peter up. So welcome, Peter.
Okay, thanks. Thank you. So which button?
That one.
That one right there. Okay. Questions? Thank you.
Change the slide deck.
Want to go to the top. There we go.
There we go. Now we're ready. Thank you, Peter.
Okay. All right. All set. Can you hear me okay? All right. Thank you, Kevin. I think the other thing too, you'll notice that I don't have an English accent. I am from Boston, Massachusetts, but I happen to be on the board of directors with SEDMA Europe. The reason being is I think more cool things are done in Europe when it comes to training and certification. I really do. When I wanted to first get things rolling a long, long time ago, there was always the Europeans who would step up. Always, always, always. So fortunately, I like to come to Europe. Now, they kept me away for a couple of years. And so I'm back. First opportunity, they would let me in the country. And then Kevin said, hey, while you're here, could you come present here? So I'm very honored to be here. And like I said, being the chair of certification for 6 years, you get to hear from everybody. You get to hear the good, the bad, you know, so so I always kept my nose to whatever was current. And I'll tell you, the Europeans, it's great that they always participated, always step forward. And so hopefully if you have questions, I'll be able to answer them. Okay, doke. All right. So in these slides coming up, there's some details here and there. You don't necessarily have to pay attention too much to the slides, you know, because I'm going to talk about, you know, what is certification. That'll take, you know, we could take 50 minutes on it, or we could take 5, but we'll take 2. And then the big question is, why do it, right? You know, why do it? And then after you decide, okay, maybe my company should do this, then you're going to do, how do you do it? So that's the big questions that we're going to get into, because there's going to be a checklist that you're going to go through. At the end of the checklist, you're going to remember that there's a checklist. That's all you got to remember. Then you can go back to the checklist, go through it again. And then we'll talk about some digital badging. I got some badges to show off, some people who've run programs here. I'm going to ask, how many people own a certification program? Okay, how many people think they own a badging program? Okay, how many want to do one? Okay. Okay, not bad. All right. So for our purposes today, certification is for an individual. All right. These days, people toss around the word certification so freely, so easily, that half my time is spent policing people who do this. Okay. Now, you have to pass a high stakes proctored exam to be certified. Okay. That's what we're talking about here. Accreditation is for a company. Years ago, I made a mistake. One of the first programs that I built was the EMC Proven Professional Program. And I called something accreditation. And Dave Foster, I don't know if you know Dave, Dave is from Novell. Dave is considered the father of certification. They did paper pencil tests, but he was the first one. So he gave me a call, gave me a little scolding, a little schooling, but that didn't stop everybody else from using the word accreditation. For our purposes, it's for an institution, okay? Qualification is low stakes testing. All right, open book, online, not proctored. Certificates of completion, training certificates, that's when you've taken a class, you want to give somebody something, it's a certificate of completion. Very important to understand the distinction, because chances are someone in your management chain won't understand that. All right, you're gonna have to teach them that. And authorization is important for partner companies. So for those who are looking to create any sort of partner company that has, whether or not it's beyond just training, beyond just certification, it's revenue, it's customer service, testimonials, any sort of partner program, that would be authorization. So that's what it is, okay, for our purposes here today. All right, everybody got that? Okay, all right, just checking. So then the next question is, why do this? And I get the question all the time. I'm a partner, why should I get certified? Well, your projects are going to be completed 35% faster. They might say, well, why would I want to do that? Well, how about if you just do it more correctly? Okay, but you'll see these other things, and borrowed from Salesforce, and I got the okay to use this, were some great stats, you know, about why get certified. So Simon was very, you know, I called him up, said, can I use this? You want to add anything here? Okay. But, you know, when you think about, you know, I need to get a job. Okay, maybe you should get certified. I like to tell people who are within the company that I work for, it probably behooves you to get certified, because when it comes down to two people, whether or not they get promoted or whether or not there's a reorg, you're going to look to someone who has a credential. So when you think about this, the impact of what you're doing here in creating a certification exam better be of the highest quality, because people's career could be on the line. Okay, so that's why we're going to get into how we do it. We're going to spend more time there. Okay, and then there's other things. I find so many people after they get certified, they feel so much better about themselves. Their confidence soars. You know, it's amazing. Half the time when I'm at a conference and I talk to someone and I said, you know, you should take the exam, because oftentimes they're just scared. And by the way, the CTTM exam, you can take it here, but I highly recommend you read the book. And just another side, pay attention to the charts, okay? Pay attention. The thing is, you learn a lot, you gain more confidence, and I've seen it time and time again, and I've been doing this for a while. So, you know, I'm always recommending, if you have an opportunity to get certified, you know, go for it. And if you're in the training industry, the CTM thing is something that will enlighten you on other areas that you're not an expert in. Now, I had some earlier take the exam, didn't pass, but You know, they learn these different areas, and if they want to go forward, they know what they need to study and what to go for. So sometimes if you fail at the beginning, don't worry, you know, it's a process. All right. So when I talk about why, and there's an article I write about people who have an affinity to learn. And it's that characteristic that you're looking for as someone who hires people. I'm looking for people who have perseverance, right? I'm looking at people who want to, you know, make a difference. They want to learn. So, you know, that takes an inner drive. So it's the characteristic I'm looking for. So if someone can demonstrate that they're constantly learning, I think that's just a positive thing to do. The other thing that I have here is demonstrates integrity. If you take a test and you pass it on the up and up, right, you're demonstrating integrity. 95% of the people have integrity. And Warren Buffett actually says that's the most important thing that he looks for when he hires someone. So I will tell you this, and I'm very clear about test cheaters. If you catch it, if I catch you, it could be the end of your career. Okay, not worth it. And really most people, if they start doing things like sharing answers, it's like, hey, don't do this. I know you're trying to help each other. Let's have an even playing field, right? So integrity is a big part of this, right? And certification helps validate that. And I think that's very important. So, and I write an entire article about it. Certification Magazine, if you want to learn about things on certification, there's actually an article here on test security that I wrote last month. That's just something that you may want to think about. All right. So the checklist. If you do this checklist, you'll succeed. Now, if you have questions, you can always give me a ring. Okay? First call's free. All right. But goals, and I'm going to get into each one of these, and we could spend 45 minutes on each one of these checklist items. All right. But goals, audience analysis, timeline, job analysis, exam development, delivery, operations, marketing, and branding. So for those who've done a program, who thinks goals is the most important? Okay, nobody. All right. Who thinks marketing and branding is most important? So those are the two things that I think are the most important, but you have to do all these other things. All right, we'll go a little farther. Mike Dowsey said to dress casual smart. So I wore a golf shirt so I could handle my perspiration. So if I'm sweating a little bit, it's hot. Anyway, so goals. I don't know about you, but I've had CEOs tell me, I expect 40,000 credentials. Then I ask them, you know, what do you want? But they're serious. They're dead serious. Okay. But they don't know what a high stakes credential is versus a low stakes. They don't. So what do? You basically create a digital badging program that will have your micro credentials. You'll have all different ways that they can get them. I will cite Salesforce as having, I don't know, it's hundreds of thousands of badges. I know we were going for 15 million at one time. And yeah, that they can get. But what ends up happening is for certification, Salesforce is pretty much like everybody else that I'm speaking for, is that for certification, if they do 2,000 to 3,000 credentials, that's pretty good. You are a legit real program if you're getting 2,000 to 3,000 tests a year. Okay. Trust me, Pearson VUE will pay attention to you. Prometric, which is now back in the game, they'll pay attention to you. You become a voice All right, this is something to think about. Don't worry about when you first get started, right? But think about your overall framework of how you're going to get this, because you could do this, and if they're expecting 40,000, and let's say you do 600 certifications in your first year, which is fantastic. But they go, where's the other 39,000? It's like, oh, I've got this badging program that we're going to have, and that'll get through 5,000. Okay, so that's where you want to go with this. All right, audience analysis. Hey, we want to get people certified. We want to do a program. Great. How many people are out there? I don't know. That's why we hired you. You got to figure it out, right? So I have these little formulas. They actually work. How many partners do you have? Times it by 4. It's actually a real number. It actually works. The install base. I mentioned EMC. I had no idea what was going on when I first did this back in 2000. And I called up one other person who was running Cisco. There's like 3 people who were doing a program. And he said, hey, look at your install base. I said, okay. Our install base is 3,000. I said, times 2, 6,000. There's my number. Right. The other one is how many internal people. You're going to have trouble. You're going to have trouble getting that one. You can get it through org charts. You can dig it up. But it's going to be difficult for a senior vice president of customer service to commit to a number. You might put a number down for him. Just be prepared that what your certification program will do for him or her. Okay, be prepared for that. Okay, I want this, and there's an old presentation by Billy Connolly. We want it yesterday, and we want it now, with a few other words, choice words in between. This is not unusual for people to ask for this in 3 months. Okay, I say it's very doable. Okay, extremely doable. Well, for me anyway, but okay, that being said, but I've done it in 3 months. The key part is you got to figure out which exam is the big one. You get that one in and you say, here's my roadmap. Got to get your website up. Okay, you get your website up, you get the rules of the program, you're good to go. And besides, you do need a test, but we'll get to that next. But you can do this. All right, job analysis. How many have done a job analysis? Half art, half science, right? A little bit of this, a little bit of that, a little bit of sleight of hand. Who's out there? Who's your audience, right? So what I've done is I say, give me the top 5. I want to talk to these top 5 people. I send them a little note and say, hey, tell me what are the 5 skills that you need to be successful in the job. Okay. And then I ask them, well, what does that mean? And what do you need to know? And I'm able to build an audience analysis just from that. You can also find companies that you can pay megabucks for. Megabucks is a United States term. I don't know if people are aware of megabucks. I got to check my number. It's like a lottery. But you can do this. You can do this. Because once you have that information, not only can you do a blueprint, you can also cascade it out and do a quantitative survey, where then you can ask your larger audience, where do you sit within this environment? Where do you sit within this skill set? Because that way you can figure if you have 300 people out there and they all think they're experts, great. You're going to build an exam, you're going to have 300 people pass it. That's not the real world. But it's good to have an idea of who they are and what knowledge they have. Okay. So exam development, how many people have built an exam? Okay. How many people had a great manager, mentor who showed them how to do this? Anybody in the room? All right, is it okay? This is good. I like to see more than one hand up. And then, is there anybody named Grasshopper in here? Because if you can snatch a pebble from my hand, you can build an exam. But it's very rewarding to actually build something. Now, one of the hardest things that you need to do is get subject matter experts. So here's some guides that I had. I mentioned the person that I first talked to, Don Field. He just retired a couple of years ago. Great guy. And he said, well, I get people to come to my workshops because I'm in San Francisco. Pick a nice place. Okay, they'll come. So I picked Orlando. And by the way, I've written justifications for this because Disney depresses the airline flight fares to Orlando. So it's the cheapest place to fly anywhere in the world. So this means Europeans can come in, shorter flight, and everybody from the States can go there. Honest to God, I've written a justification for this, all right, to get people to go and help me write exams. I got so good at it that I would get partners ask me when I'm going to do the next exam. They would pay their way to come do these with me. And if you've had to build an exam, you know how hard it is to get subject matter experts to participate. I mean, I kind of do the same thing with training too. All right. It's hard. So Disney, people bring their families, they make plans. Every February, I'm going to be doing something. I'm building a test Thursday and Friday here in the UK because people like to come to the UK in Europe. I want to come to London. I'm telling you, it is the single greatest factor in getting subject matter experts. So you're going to get managers who are going to push back. Anybody experience that? I don't want to give up my people. You got to spend half your time saying, you know what they're going to get out of it? They're going to meet 6 to 8 other really, really smart people who are going to be able to help them out. For partners, you're going to get a door in. I have to turn away partners from participating in these things. Okay. That's a good problem. That's a real good problem to have. Because if you don't have your subject matter experts, you know, it's tough. I never said it would be easy. And then that's one of my favorite lines when they're writing the questions. I said, I never said it was going to be easy. So you need to have an exam blueprint in place. Has anybody created an exam blueprint? Okay. There's an example of one in here. Just so you know, the idea being is that you're picking topics, you're picking objectives, you're flushing them out, you're working with subject matter experts, and you create the blueprint. And that's where you got to really start driving your recruitment, where you go to the manager and say, look, your people need to contribute to this, or you're going to keep getting calls on the back end. If people aren't certified, right, customer support will keep on getting inundated. So you've got to keep selling to these managers on a constant basis. Now, the other thing that people say, well, how long is a workshop? I call them workshops when you put these things together. It takes about 40 hours, right? Now, if you create one from ground zero, I say 4.5 days. It is a disciplined process to actually create the exam and exam questions. And when people are actually going through this with you, I can even tell you the pattern that develops. And I think I can go through it a little bit more of their actual experience. But what I've also done recently is I've done these things remotely. And I put up a little recipe that worked. Okay. A long time ago, someone who worked for me said, why don't we do everything remotely and develop exams? And I said, go ahead. And then 3 months later, he said, oh man, this is taking too long. So anyway, in the days of COVID, I had no choice. So that's what I did. This worked. So I'm not telling you, you know, I split up the sessions. We blocked them off. I gave up Wednesday to write items. And it still has that same pattern of how they start to, and then how you get to the finish and how they get better at writing items as things go on. But you need to ask them to write 3 to 5 questions before they start so you can get them going. Trust me, this will help. I can always tell someone who hasn't done them, because when they show up, they're always a half a day behind. Always, always. So, all right. You know what? I want to back up for just 1 second, because I think this is what I need to speak about. When someone comes in to write an exam, write questions, it's all scenario based. The scenario based questions are the hardest to write, but they're also type of questions that require critical thinking. So critical thinking is what you're really going for. I don't care, you know, 6.x, 6.x1, x2, x3. I don't keep doing exams like that. I go for 1, and then every year I'll figure out what I'm going to do for recertification. But I want them to be able to critically connect the dots. So that takes scenarios. You can't cheat. Exam cheats have no chance with scenario-based questions, none. And these are multiple choice, multiple option. You don't stand a chance. You either know it or you don't, but they're harder to develop. Okay, this is where you've got to put in time. That's why it takes this time to write these. And when they're writing, on Monday they struggle. Maybe we get 10 that are called keepers. Exam questions that are going to make it into your exam bag. 10 after 8 hours. I'm telling you, I have people high five and they get to 11. Next day, I say, you're going to double it. And that's what we go for. Then on the 3rd day, I call that moving day. You know, now we're going to go for 45. And they can do it by then because everybody's disciplined. Everybody knows what we're looking to do, right? The momentum's there. Thursday, you're sailing because they want to get out of there on Friday to go have fun. I'm telling you, but you need that extra half a day just in case, just in case. For instance, I got 2 days planned for Thursday, Friday, and I'm doing this kind of hybrid thing because I'm converting it from US to UK. You'd be surprised the little differences that have to be addressed. It's going to take 2 days. I built in a half a day on Monday just in case. But that means we're all driving towards getting it done on Friday. But we'll see. We'll see. So it isn't that I'm not also practicing these things. You know, I'm doing this stuff now. So it's not like in the old days, I'm doing it. But in the old days, I did do things like that. Right? All right, to test or not to test. So I want to do this, and I'm not going to give you any money. Well, guess what? You are not going to have a program. You have to be able to say sorry. So you have to be able to justify what's going to happen if you build these things. Now, of course, when I talk about test development, who's your test delivery person you're going to use? You know, there are different ones out there. I personally use Criterion for these past bunch of years, online proctor testing. There are others, that are available who say they do it. Pearson View now says they do it. I know that Prometric got out of the game. They're back in. I think they're saying they do it. All I know is that this is not a plug for Criterion, is that it's an easy tool to use and they have different costing so you can get in the game. And I love the non-proctored testing that you can make available at conferences. Got a couple of people take the test today. Did you pass? Hope you're close. All right, all right. All right, well, we'll talk later. So again, if you want to do proctor testing, so how Criterion does it, how Pearson View does it, there's some nuances. I will tell you that when you do a proctored test, I believe it needs to be proctored live online. There are some vendors who say, we tape you, and then we look and we analyze. The live version to me, and by the way, in this magazine, I talk about this in great detail, so I don't have to cover too much. But there's something about the fact that someone is watching you live, right? You can't get up, you can't walk out, you can't talk to someone else. By the way, you can't speak out loud and read the questions out loud because they'll tell you to be quiet. Now that usually shakes up the test taker, but they get it that you could be talking into some sort of recorder. I will tell you that I don't worry at all about exam cheating at all. Not since I switched over to scenario-based questions. Before, so it's almost like there's like a timeline in 2005. I was willing to go to the ends of the earth to hunt down these people and do bad things to them. Okay? However I could destroy them, I would, right? And then I realized I was just spending too much time. I said, there has to be a better way. And it all came down to scenario-based questions. So I keep going back to that. I will tell you that a live proctor who catches you, and by the way, I have time because I'm going fast, right? I can tell a story, Kevin? Okay, all right. We actually caught a person live with a hand behind his head taping it, okay? So we caught him. Then we stopped the test. I didn't do it, but they stopped it. They flagged it and said, by the way, Peter, we've seen someone else with the same sort of background taking this test. Son of a gun, there was someone in the shadow of the door. And when they asked them to show the room, they went like this. So the person was casting a shadow on the door. So now I have all this information. Unfortunately for them, I was working with a partner very closely who this person applied for the job to join them. I said, this person will never get the certification if it's required because we caught them doing things they shouldn't be doing. And then I showed him the video. He didn't get the job, okay? This is pretty serious stuff. It goes back to integrity, right? You have to cheat your way through it. I don't want you on my team, So you have to be careful even when you're selecting that testing provider. Like I said, reviewing after the test and maybe someone will flag something doesn't give that same sense of fear. And I still want people to be fearful. Do it right. Do it right. So even though I'm not concerned about it, doesn't mean I'm not paying attention to it. Because at the end of the day, you want a level playing field for everybody. Everybody who has gotten this credential has really earned it. You need to protect it for everybody else. Just like golf, right? You're protecting the integrity of the field. Anybody golf? Anybody bring the clubs to take me out later? No? Okay. And so that's what you're doing. And that's part of the value. And I'm going to get into value. But if people know you're protecting this credential, again, it's another worthy credential for them to earn. Now, people might say, well, performance-based testing is the only way. Well, okay. The one time that I got heavily involved in it is that after people who completed a series of high stakes exams, we took them into a training class for a week, and then they had to prepare an entire project for another week. And then it was scored with a Rubik's equation for the test scores to go by. We had to have two people compare the score, that we would compare the scores of the two scorekeepers, who we paid $250 each. Okay. It took a lot for people to score the test. It took a lot for us to find people to score the test. And the most people that you can put through, I think, in a year is 200 tops. Okay. Think about what that costs, because your class is only so big, right? 5, 6 people, 2-week commitment. That's not a lot of people. Now, of course, those are the shiniest gold pieces you'll ever have, but that's a serious investment. I think the scenario-based questions do just as good a job and can scale, where you can get 10,000 people certified and 40,000 badges, as well. All right, so operations. Who does operations? Who would like not to do operations? Okay. So you got to have third-party vendors, and I've got a list of them for the badging, and I'll show you a little. I have an example of what happens when you get a badge. But you still need someone who does the care and feeding of the vendors, make sure things are set up. The ideal scenario that I ran into, I was so fortunate in having this person work the systems with all of IT, because I don't know about you, but if you work with IT inside your company, they're just a dream. I didn't say what kind of dream, they're just a dream. I would say more like a nightmare, but I think everybody knows where I'm coming from. It's a year later into trying to get IT to do a sign-on pass-through between our subsystem and Criterion. Not Criterion's fault. So what we said was, you know what? For the time being, everybody's going to have to go to Criterion, sign up, and then we're going to take the passing information and we're going to manually put it into ours. Wouldn't it be great if that was all automated, right? And that's your goal, is to automate wherever you can and to make a case. We had a program where we had a partner portal. Oh, this was a dream. And the data went right into the partner portal, and every partner saw their scorecard of where they stood, of how many people were certified. Oh, I still call the ops manager up from time to time who worked for me, and I said, I'd love to hire you. I can't afford you. You're too good. But it was a dream. So at least I lived a dream for a few years with this person. It was just awesome. So if you're fortunate to have an ops person who can do this, great. If not, this falls to you to figure out who's going to be able to help you. Now, I have a launch list that I also do. Every time an exam comes out, what are you going to do? I'm going to contact so-and-so. I'm going to do this. I'm going to update the website. I always have a list. I have study guides. FAQs got to be updated, program rules. Every time it happens, it's like, here's your checklist to my ops manager. If it's not, if I don't have one, it's me. And you go through it, because you can miss some things every time you launch a test. Oh yeah, I forgot to tell everybody I have a test. The other thing is metrics. This is interesting. How many people know the difference between pass-fail rate and success rate? I know you would know that, and you just learned it. Okay. Anybody want to know? Okay, all right, just checking to see who's out there that's, paying attention. All right, 5 people take a test. 4 people pass. 1 person failed. Pass, fail, right now is 80%, right? 5th person retakes it. They pass it. 5 out of 5 succeeded. See, I change the numbers up every time. If you want to report success rate, it takes a little bit more work, but it looks better because I'm A-okay with people failing the first time and retaking. Completely comfortable with that. And matter of fact, that way you can go back to them and say, all right, you missed by 5 percentage points. You get your printout of how you did per topic. And if you do scenario-based questions, the person who took the test will know before they even see the report where they did bad in. And they're going to be able to go back, study, and retake it, and they'll pass. Now, anything outside of 5% becomes iffy. 10% lower, you're going to have to do a little bit more. Anybody below that, you want to ship them to your lower test first and work their way back up. You got to be honest with them. And the thing is, at conferences, which we now get to go to again, it's the greatest thing when people come out because they, it is so personal, right? When they come out of the room, when they pass, yeah, you want to take a picture, you want to send them to the conference, they got their badge, they got a digital badge. They're so excited. The opposite end is that someone fails. Okay, you got to catch them before they hit the social media button and start talking to their buddies at the bar. And it's best that you talk them off the cliff right after they take an exam. It's great. So that's what makes conference testing great. I'm going to throw in another little aside on operations. You can make all your exams online, proctored only, as long as you say at some point in time they can take them in person at a conference. Okay, so you can do that. That's a little nuance because some people say, I don't have online access. This is not fair. It's like, well, you can go to a conference. All right, just, trust me on that one. So back to metrics. I got a senior vice president who wants to know who failed and what areas, and I want all this information and I want it yesterday. I said, no, you're not going to get it. I'll tell you everybody who passed. It's up for you to figure out, did they, why didn't they take it? You can find out. I'm never going to give failing information to anybody. Talk about losing your constituency. And I had a great conversation with a couple other vendors recently. Same thing across the board. Don't be afraid to say no. You'll have the data out there. There's plenty of people who will back you up. Don't give out failing information to managers. Now, the individual can share this information with their manager, and I think it's great that then they can say, hey, listen, this is how I want to improve. I know I got to do these things, and I want to retake the test. That's perfect for that individual to share it. Should never be you. I just think that's just bad juju. I don't know if that's something you guys, it's okay, all right. But it's bad karma, bad everything. Just bad. It's like someone, okay, how many people play craps? Okay, this is great. No one will get this joke. There's something called the pass line. Did you ever go to a casino and hear everybody yelling? Yeah, because they hit their number. They hit the 5. Hey, what's all the racket? That's everybody bet on the pass line. And they're all rooting for that number to hit. But there's always somebody who bets the no pass line. They're betting against you. That's what giving a test failing scores is like to me. You don't want to do that. I just think it's just bad for the world. Okay, am I clear on this? Did I get that point across? Yeah, okay. Okay. So the two things that I said were the most important were goals. I didn't tell you what type of goals, right? And this is the second most important thing. So your goals are to raise your technical competencies. That's a goal. You can use that one. I've used that one for years because it'll reduce stress on your back end systems. That'll get your buy-in from your customer support people. You can reduce calls into my call center. I love you. How are you going to do it, Peter? You're going to help me write these tests. Done. Right? Then you got to figure out, well, who's calling into the support center? And you start taking a look. It's usually the same 20%, usually, who are doing 80% of the calls. So you're trying to address that number in a big picture way. What are some other goals? You want to create lifelong advocacy. Hey, I got the certification. I want to make sure that it's a value and I'm going to, promote it. I'm going to talk about it. After someone passes a CTM exam, they're going to tell everybody, I passed, get the word out. And by the way, just to the side, if you're within a learning organization, you say, how do I work my way up? One of the ways that you can do it is at least just learn the different areas of expertise that you have to know. So that's what that CTTM book does. So if you are an ID instructional designer, it'll teach you about management, right? And you have to know that. So besides certification, I've run some pretty large training organizations. And I'll tell you, metrics and money matters. If you want to be that director, senior director, you need to know how to do these things. Just imperative. So this book will help you learn these different areas. And it's a way for you to say, hey, I want to take the next step up in your career. And by the way, as just, a member of SEDMA, I think it's important for us to help everybody in their careers. I think this book does it. Okay. I really do. I really do. And having this test validates that skills and knowledge. If you can go through the book, you can slug your way through it and you can pass it. Just takes a 60. But then I'll tell you what, if you tell me that you have this credential and you're applying for a job on my team, chances are I'm going to hire you. Okay. I think it's that strong. And I would like to see other managers understand it, that's how big it is. Okay. So marketing. So how many people like to do marketing? Okay. It's interesting how you look at what marketing is or isn't. As an individual, you're always selling the program. You're always talking about it. I know that I can remember making pitches in front of board of directors. You want $8 million to do what? It's like, okay. Then I can remember talking to someone else. Well, it's going to take you 2.4 million and that's it. It all depends, you go back to goals. And when I talk about marketing, you need to market internally as well. And I go to them, what happens if you don't do a certification program? I see your competitor does. Now, if your competitor does a lousy program, great, we could pick on that. But if it does a good program, that's a difference maker. And then the Gartner reports, you're familiar with the Gartner reports and the different quadrants. They have stuff for training and certification. And if you have a missing button, the executives will come and call you and say, we need to do this. That's when you better be prepared for your goals. That's when you better be prepared for your budget, and all these things we talked about. All right, social media. I always like to have someone on my team much younger than me, who can actually handle it. I put goals on, let's get for followers up from 0 to 1,000. Okay, all right, how are we gonna do it? And I'll send people to like social media school and get artifacts done. And well, who does artifacts? Well, that's the graphics people over there in marketing. Okay, all right. So we need to get them on the team. We need to, we need to start pulling these teams together. And it's like a metric. It becomes a metric. We now have 1,000 followers. Okay, we had 0. So how do I say it? We had a 1,000% increase in followers. Oh, 1,000. Okay, so this matters in marketing. If you also have people who pass the exam, you got to do something for them. All right, now you could invite them on your newsletter. You can, and this is the interesting thing that I do, if I may say so myself, it's the certification advisory board. That's for people who actually come to a workshop, participate for the full week, and you're going to laugh at this one, and contribute 5 keepers, that's usable items. I will tell you that people have struggled to get to that 5th one, and we'll have other people help them. Now, keep in mind, when you're building a bank of 120 and you have 8 people, you're thinking, how does someone struggle? It's hard to do this. So after they do it, we put them on the certification advisory board, so their company and themselves, they can promote themselves. Partners will then send more people and say, look, we have 3 people on the advisory board. We are important. This is why you should do your projects with us. Now, you may not think that's marketing, but that's just like another thing. So what I do is I have a checklist, and I learned this from EMC. EMC got bought by Dell. So does anybody even remember EMC? Okay. EMC was the king of creating things that didn't exist. I will tell you, I loved them for it. I learned so much about marketing and the categories that they do. Push-pull strategies. What? I still use these things today. What do I push out? What do I pull in? How do I, it's funny on the social media thing, I've learned things. I'm still learning things, fortunately, about having actionable items. Oh, okay. These are all cool things that I learned, but I'd rather not do it. I'd rather have someone else do it, and who'll be far better at it than me. Oh, just some personal advice that was given to me. If you don't own your name for your Twitter account, like I'm at Peter Manajak, you should get it before someone starts writing under your name. So then you have to write, just some advice. So this was given to me by someone much younger than me. I said, okay, I believe you 100%. Because there is, I'm sorry, I'm more towards the end of my career than the beginning. So, and I love the energy that people have that are coming in that are all excited. Now I get excited every day anyway, so I wear out everybody, but I still love it when other people come in. All right, so when I talk about these meetings, now I've got a group of people who are total focus is how do we grow the number of certifications? How do we grow the badges? And they come from all different groups within your company. This becomes your most fun meeting of the whole week, 100%. Because then you actually do stuff and, do stuff that matters. And then you get people on your team who are excited about it. So you get excited, so everybody's always running around excited. All right, now, and I could talk about marketing for another half hour, but you want me to move on? Okay, all right. So I slipped in those goals. Did someone catch the part about raising technical competencies? Write that down. That's your big one. Oh, Hitachi. I found these on the web. So, and we have the owner of the Hitachi program, and we're laughing because I built Hitachi's program and ran it for a number of years. So I still love Hitachi. But they did some incredible things since I left. No surprise, some really nice work. I love the idea, of the different badges representing different things, of stackable credentials. It's great. It is such a powerful tool with badging. The other thing that I do is I teach through testing when I do those qualification credentials. I'll do that with salespeople. Give them an open book test, scenario based. They can all talk amongst themselves for the whole thing. And I don't mind teaching them while they're taking the test, giving them all kinds of information. Hey, you can't do this in Texas. Oh, okay, got it. Don't do this in Texas. You're teaching them. Take advantage of this, the way badging is. Be careful about what the brands mean. The blurring is very important. And I don't know, maybe we could talk about it later, but Forge Park does this program with micro-credentialing. And I'm always worried about the blending of credentials and what means what. So I always want to make sure that things are what they represent, because you get people say, I'm certified. No, you took a course. I got 8 badges. Yeah, but you're not certified. So you got to be careful. But I love the design. The other thing that I like to do is, like, if you achieve 4 badges, we give you a super badge. You have no idea how many times I've been able to get people who take the first 2 and say, oh, I got to do 1 more. It works. They'll take it to get the super badge. And in terms of marketing, I will tell you that giving out stickers to people's laptops at a conference is the number 1 tool to give folks when they pass the exam at a conference. They are so proud of it that they'll put it on their laptop, go around and display it. I have, this is all the IT guys and women. I'm sorry. My apologies if I'm doing my pronouns wrong. It's a big deal. Having those, I can't believe it. I was on the certification Slack channel. What do you use? What do you do? Everybody was like, hey, stickers. Everybody just believes in stickers. Got me. But I tell you, the idea of using these badges to grow your program, to grow consumption of training, that's a big deal. I'm now converting some, it used to take people some extraordinary amount of time to get through a program to earn this professional credential. And only, 35 people did it in 5 years. Well, that's because it takes, no one's going to spend this much time. So if you chunk it up and you give them a credential after doing 48 hours and you give them a little test, of course, I always charge something, because if you charge something, it'll be more important to them. But I charge a minimal amount, $30, right? Enough to get their attention. Certification exams, 200, 300, these little other badges. You pick up 4 of them, you can get this big badge, right? You can even call it whatever you want. But that really gets them to consume 4 to 8 hours of training, another 4 to 8 hours, another 4 to 8 hours. And, oh, how do you know they took it? They were online. Maybe they just clicked through it. They paid enough attention to answer my scenario-based questions. There's only 15 of them to pass the test. And by the way, I could then tell everybody, we know that they consume this training. It's a solid metric. The other thing that I do to gain favor is to cite like knowledge-based articles, not just our training. Because you have documentation teams who are doing some great work. Okay, let's use that material as source material. So anyway, it's just some thoughts, and the badges, I think, are kind of critical. Here's some vendors. I use Credly, got bought by Pearson VUE. And by the way, I don't really have anything bad to say about Pearson VUE. If you use them, great. Credible, a couple others. People get a badge. You got to remind them to accept the badge. And this is really great when you send this to management, or if you're doing an executive presentation, you click on it. If you go here, it'll say verify. And when you click on verification, it's the most impressive thing that they'll get across. It'll start rolling out what got verified. I'm telling you, when you're marketing your program to executives, nothing can have a greater impact. And just see, they got a badge, look at this. Then they post it on social media, they call up a LinkedIn account, and look at this, look at what's going on out there. All of a sudden, you got hundreds of people putting their badges out there. Everybody's getting verified. Dogs and cats peacefully coexisting, right? You know, what do you get? So then you get these cool badges. I like Forge Rock. I like Forge Rock badges. Got the micro credentialing. I always want to hear more about that. But you can do different things with the badges, be creative. Make sense? So, did I do okay on time? My wife told me, bring a hanky, you always sweat. Thank you. What's good about me is that my hair now flash dries. So if I can just be cool enough, it'll all dry in 1 minute. So, and so this book, I'll just tell you, it's very thin, so it's nice and light to carry, but it has everything that I talked about in here in great detail. Okay. So I don't mean it to be a commercial. I mean, it kind of is. But the reason why I did it was I had so many people asking me, what do I do? How do I do it? I'm like, go read these articles, go do this. And then a couple of people said, write a book. So I did it. So you can get it on Amazon. And Kevin said, you can tell people about it. So I, that's pretty good. Okay. That's it, unless we do questions. What do you think?
We have a couple of microphones in the room. So if anybody would like to ask a question while they come to you, Peter, I've got some questions for you from Zoom, from the live stream. And the first one comes from Emmanuel, who says, Peter, it's the questions about scenario-based questions. Is it recommended that they are free text answer type? Is it recommended that they are a free text answer type of question?
Okay, so before I answer that, I'm going to give everybody an opportunity when I say thank you, that was my presentation, to thank you with a little thing. And we can do it again after questions. So I have all my scenario-based questions are written. They are between 2 and 5 sentences long, okay? And they are based on some pretty specific rules that you can give 1 out of 4 correct, 2 out of 4 correct, or 3 out of 5. And they're all written answers. I don't do anything in graphics. I've never done things in graphics. You have to think your way through it. So everything is in text. Hope that makes sense, Manuel.
Okay, so I've got another one from the internet as well, which is from Becky. It says, do certifications garner badges, or does he keep the badges for lower stakes credentials? Follows on with, rather, how does he distinguish, that's you, Peter, the badging between high stakes certification and lower stakes cert of completion?
Great question. So if you look at the badge here, if you can see it online, is it still online?
Yep.
You'll notice that I have a qualified professional. And that's what I run everything under that is unproctored. I do qualified professional. And it's a shape of a home plate, but you guys don't play baseball over here. But that's what that looks like, the States. Okay. You'll see that Ceridian certified has a different shape. You'll see, it'll say it right on it. I put the different examples up there. Yeah, I love this one too. Emeritus SIG chair. I am the only emeritus SIG chair at SEDMA, but you got to run like 60, 70 sessions for 6 years. So I told Mike to make sure no one can get that easily. All right. Did I mention that on that? Okay. Did that answer the question?
It does. And one more before we go back to the room. Should the badge be sent to their LinkedIn account? And that's from Michael, who's watching the live stream.
Oh, that's the whole point of getting the badge, so you can put it on LinkedIn. 100%. That's big time. Big time. That answer that one?
It does for me.
Okay.
I will keep an eye on the text. We'll go to the room. Who in the room has a question? Throw your hand up and a microphone will come towards you.
And if I don't know the answer, I'll make it up. No, no.
I have a microphone. Is the microphone working?
I can hear you.
Perfect. I'm William Dorman from Criterion. And my question is, when a company comes to you and says, are we ready for a certification program? What do you ask them and how do you formulate a response?
So did everybody hear this? Okay, we've never met in person, right? We might have talked on the phone maybe once or twice. We've emailed each other when I have a complaint. So you're probably surprised that I said all these things, right? And what was the question again?
When a company comes to you and says, are we ready to start a certification program? What do you ask them? How do you formulate your response?
I first asked them, well, do you have a budget? They say no. I said, well, you know, I didn't tell them to read one of my articles of how to build one. Literally, I do. And then I have many other articles that I tell them, if you're really serious, read these and come back to me and I'll answer more of your questions. And then I tell them to join SEDMA because we have like-minded people who this is what we do. You know, we've got 20, 30 people, sometimes 40, once a month. This is what we do. And, you know, I'll go through the checklist if people want. I'll say, you need to do these things. Are you prepared? There's an old movie with Sean Connery. I don't know if you, Elliot Ness. What are you prepared to do? You know, are you willing to go to the mats? Are you willing to do these things? And I have a lot of people who just walk away because they realize it's that difficult. You know, you can do various degrees of badging, you can do different things, but if you're in it for the real deal, you got to be able to answer these questions. And that's what I tell them. And honestly, no one paid me to say these things about Criterion. All the good things I said before. Okay.
Hi, Peter.
Hi, Simon.
Someone has gone, this is just a comment first. Someone's gone through.
I don't know if your mic is on.
Can you hear that?
Okay.
Yeah. As someone's gone through one of these question workshops with you, I can just validate how challenging and difficult it is, and everything you said is absolutely true. And the hardest thing was actually writing the wrong questions. But my question is, we haven't touched on maintenance or recertification. When to do that? I think you said you don't like 6.8. What's your views about when's the right time to recertify? Is it for life? Is it for a product? What's your thoughts?
So that's a great question, right? And certification, again, can be an art as well as a science. I can put down some rules that every year for salespeople, you need to retake an online test because I want you to know the products. But for the other people that I built role-based certifications for, I think that you prove that you've done critical thinking. And I'm very happy if you have a 2022 badge. And that what I believe now is if you take some training just to be up to speed on what the latest products are. And by the way, you can earn a qualification badge, but as long as you take the training, I'm very happy for you to continue owning that 2022 badge. I might, you know, and the thing is, and you take that module that gives you the latest product information, I'll issue you the 2023. The other thing that I've done is I've created a foundation exam in the past. And I say, if you pass all these other exams, you just pass this one again, we'll give you all those other ones because you prove that you've got the ability to architect something or develop this or implement that. I'm always looking for that critical thinking. because I can just give you the documentation to get the latest in the product. So I don't worry too much about that. Is that helpful?
Thank you.
Hi, yeah, my name's Kate.
Yes, I remember.
You've talked a lot about budget and there's significant investment needed to get this off the ground. But I'm interested in ROI. Is there a point, because there's only a certain amount you can charge for a certification, what's the point where you get a return on that investment?
I just missed the last part.
What's the point where you think you get a return on your investment?
Okay, so this is a great question, depending on which company you're with. I'm staying here now. Normally, I'm aching to go to this side of the stage. Am I allowed to move? Okay. Normally, I would walk back and forth, and I feel like, no, you can see me sweating over here. All right. So I had one program that had a built-in community of thousands and thousands and thousands, and got back 1.2 million in the first year. Okay. That's going to take care of any sort of questions I ever had. Next year is 1.6. Okay. That's because I had a demand built up over 5 years and I knew it. All right. But if you say, I need $1 million and you're only going to get back 50,000, your executive committee needs to buy off on the goals that you're setting, and you got to prove it with your metrics. Now, most companies that I understand for training and certification, because I've owned, usually they'll go hand in hand, is to break even. Okay. You're going for that break even. I just want to don't lose money is what the executives want. So if you're going to go in the red, you just have to justify why you're doing it and then how much you're willing to go in the red. Because if you don't have a program, what does that do against your competition? Is it worth 400,000? Now, if I were you, I'd ask another question. Well, how much does it take to really, produce an exam? Is anybody interested in that? What's the value of a certification exam? I think they're 200,000. How did I get to that number? I take the SME hours times their rate, their billable rate. All right, you think about it. Let's do even numbers. Okay, 10 SMEs. They all make $200 billable. All right, so now we're 2,000. How many hours? For our purposes, let's say 50 hours. So now we're starting to see where some money starts lining up. Then I say there's my salary. I think, where's Dan? Is he hiding behind my salary? You got to pay for me. You got to pay for your program manager. You got to pay for your ops manager. Oh, by the way, I owe Criterion. I won't tell them exactly. We'll keep that. For setup costs, there's always a setup cost. And Criterion, by the way, is quite reasonable, right? But then there's the annual fee, okay? Then there's badging, and there's a setup fee, and there's a charge. Okay. This is why you want to have the type of certifications that aren't cheated on, which goes back to scenario-based questions and the value in keeping them. Because can you imagine you had to keep putting them out because someone got your questions and they're really easy to memorize? You just, lost your job, in my opinion. Does that help in numbers? Right? So no one ever will give you that answer. But like I said, I'm towards the end of my career and I don't care that I give that information out. That, if you're gonna go down, might as well go down with complete honesty, which has been the hallmark of my career, correct? Right? Come on. Okay. And I'm doing stand-up down in downtown London, a little bit.
what's your view on using certification as a incentive for a partner or a penalty for a partner? So if you're not certified, you can't deliver services, or if you are certified, we'll place you more prominently on our website.
You know, I think it is a critical piece of partner programs, which is why I'm probably about to take over the one in my company, because they're just not making these decisions. I think partner, and by the way, I'm going to want to digress on this one a little bit. Partners will get the value of certification if they embrace it and take it, because it'll improve their own staff. They'll start doing things. I remember this one team put 57 people through. I called up and said, okay, how'd you do it? Well, son of a gun, they did a sandbox. They did weekly tutoring sessions. They got 57 people. We blogged on it. We posted it. We, played it up, because what ends up happening, the tipping point for them is they only have to get 5, right? To be, be in the program. They got 57, because your exams matter, because you built them scenario based, because they can tell that whoever passed them can really do the job. So that's what you're going for. So partners, that's what you're trying to get to the tipping point so they see it. The hard part sometimes is getting the first 5, and that's where the partner programs have to come in. Just get 5 credentials, just get 5. And then you've got to enforce it. So what we're going to do, and I've done it, literally put up who's got what credentials on the website so customers can see it. You can also push your work towards them, or push their projects towards people who have teams that have met the authorization level. I think, and I think back, I can remember, this is EMC. I don't mean to pick on EMC. They're a great program, or in a great company, but it wasn't until the partner program picked it up that we went from 1 to 3,000 to 9,000. It was all about the partners, but partners had to first be forced, and then they got the value, and then it exponentially grew. But that partner thing is a big deal, and you have to have someone who's willing to step up and run a partner program that has teeth in it, And then if someone, I don't know, put it this way, if someone won't do it, why not you? I don't know. You look like you want to ask me something. All right, and that's it. We're good. Anybody else? We're good. We're good. I mean, I could do this. What's it? Arlo Guthrie? Everybody know Alice's Restaurant? I've been doing this for 45 minutes. I could do it for another 45. I'm not tired.
I got one question then. With the certification programs that you've talked about, they all seem to be scenario-based questions.
Yes.
Do you ever include any practical work or practical proof within the certification programs?
So I believe that if you put a scenario together, right, I give people a piece of paper so they can kind of figure it out. They've got to connect the dots, and that takes practical experience. So that's how I address it. It's literally all about critical thinking. And that's what I'm going for. Because boy, when someone's out there in the field, they can reference stuff, they can reference the book, they can do different things, but they've got to be able to critically, think their way through. And if you have 60 scenarios, imagine getting all these scenarios, and you're going to be thinking about it when you're out there. Oh yeah. It helps to have all real world people writing the tests, rather than, no offense to any instructors in the room, and I love instructors, but unless they've been doing the job, I prefer to have people who are in the field. All right, but we'll let an instructor participate so they can learn how to write better questions, and then identify the gaps of training, which is important, because it all goes back to the job analysis and the blueprint. And you can go to your development and say, hey, you're missing these things, because these people say they got these questions all the time. So we put them in the test, and we force a development team You better cover this. So I know that probably answered your question and several more, but you know. Okay, anything else?
Yep.
Yeah.
Actually, I had a very similar question also about the practical part, but you mentioned scenario-based questions and you elaborated on the style of the questions, 2 to 5 sentences. What we do also 2 to 5 sentences, yes, but then we ask for a practical response. So solve a problem by doing some coding or whatsoever. And we don't necessarily ask for this very solution that we thought of, just get to the point. Get to an answer, but the challenge with that is how can we scale such a thing, because it's manual rating, manual, and do you have some advice on that? So
I wouldn't do it.
Based questions.
I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't do it. I mean in the coding language it's masking, and if you have X amount of letters that are covered, but are they the right letters? How do you score it? How do you correct it? No, so I just don't go there. Unless, of course, you want to do that high-end thing. I'd say no. You can tell them I told you. Hey, why not? I've been through it, right?
I'd just like to say thank you, Peter. It's been great to have you here.
Thank you.
And thank you for coming and doing this session for BCS.
Thank you. My pleasure.